Ripple actually goes back to 04. So the kind of seed of it was a project called the Ripple Project, which was created by this really smart engineer up in Canada, Ryan Fugger, who had this idea of creating a person-to-person exchange of kind of credits, personal credits or IOUs, which effectively you could always argue credit and currencies, you can almost argue everybody has their own currency and their credit. They're very related. And it was a really neat system. It was a nonprofit. It was kind of a one-man show. He worked on it for years. You know, got a lot of respect and attention, but never really got to scale. Maybe it was just too early. And then fast forward to 2011, which was when these three geniuses, one of them sitting right here, got together and knew about Bitcoin, obviously. Bitcoin had been earlier, but had decided that Bitcoin was, you know, brilliant, but very wasteful. So the idea was to build both a more efficient, you know, consensus algorithm that didn't consume so much electricity like Bitcoin did, but accomplished the same thing. But importantly, at the same time, was also taking some of the ideas from the Ripple project around the idea of pathfinding algorithms to exchange anything of value for any other thing of value. And that combination was kind of a, I think, kind of a magic combination. So you had kind of the ability to exchange anything of value in a very efficient way through this ingenious pathfinding algorithm, coupled with a digital asset that, you know, had no counterparty or gateway counterparty. That's a neat combination. In fact, that is kind of the germ of what I think we now view as a much broader Internet of value. That concept has kind of held. So I got involved with, you know, the three geniuses working on this stuff. You know, soon thereafter, the technology sort of became stable enough to declare it, you know, something's going to happen. That's sort of effectively the birth of XRP. We then created a company that was going to advocate for that ecosystem and focus on the ecosystem, which was then gifted a large percent of the XRP. We also then bought Ryan's Ripple project, folded that into the efforts, which was neat. And that was kind of an exchange of stock. And then we also were lucky enough to be able to acquire the URL for Ripple, which is kind of a funny story. It came from a Grateful Dead super fan. It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead. And so that all kind of came together in 2012. And that's how Ripple got started.
Chris, how would you describe what the Internet of Value is and what the sort of insight is to get us there?
Yeah, so a lot of it came from kind of the early work you guys did with pathfinding, and again, having this, you know, anything of value can be traded. That kind of was the germ of it. But kind of stepping way back, if you look at the real problem in the world today, you know, a lot of people point to globalization as being, you know, not working for people. And we would say, no, it's not that it's not working, it's just that it's a work in progress, right? It's incomplete. So you could have a real globalization needs interoperability in, you know, three core things, right? Data, goods, shipping, and money. And the problem is it only has interoperability in data, obviously the internet, and shipping since the 50s with the shipping container, which creates interoperability between port to other port, you know, ship to train to truck. But you don't have that with money. Money networks don't interoperate. And if you have that, now billions of people are onboarded into a real working, you know, kind of system of globalization. And that's upon us. I think that's really what we're trying to build here.
And I think the need is very, very evident now because you have companies that have very, very light infrastructure or none in the areas they serve.
You know, if you talk to folks at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation who do a ton of work in the financial infrastructure, of the world. The big thing that they're trying to accomplish is to allow people to send as little as 50 cents, somebody in the developing world, if they're really going to be a participant in the global economy. And that's just impossible today, right? I mean, it's really even impossible to send $50 from the US to Europe without it being all chewed up in fees. 50 cents is just not on the table. But in a world now, this kind of internet of value, combining things like ILP and XRP, that is absolutely possible. That is, so frictionless and so fast, it completely changes the economics. And then beyond, those billions of people that need to send 50 cents, think about the trillions of devices and code that needs to be able to send, 10,000th of a cent. That is also enabled through what's going on here. So pretty exciting.
I think the vision is to be able to make an international payment as cheap and easy as pulling up a web page, like something that you would do without even thinking about the mechanics or the costs or who has to do what. It's just so automatic and so cheap and so scalable, and there's so many of them happening that it's almost invisible. You don't even think about doing it.
Yeah, almost like the value is moving with the data, just right on top of each other. And that is a world that we can have, but not with the infrastructure you have today. You've got kind of an internet world, kind of working with a pre-internet world of money, and those things are not lining up. So this is a big bottleneck for the world. If we can push through this, that's it. And again, blockchains are not the only answer. They're a subset of the solution, but the broader solution combines this kind of value interoperability protocols with a super fast and efficient digital asset, and then with some kind of mechanism for programming how that value moves around.
The Internet of Value is about rewiring the global financial infrastructure to dramatically improve the cost, speed, and certainty of how transactions flow. It's amazing to me how many people really don't realize how much friction there is in payments. We've become habituated to just expecting this is how it works. And I think, like so many other industries that have been disrupted by reducing friction, increasing speed, I think we're going to see a dramatic change over the next 10 or even 15 years that are really hard to predict today, that are the foundation that will be laid upon that Internet of Value. XRP is part of the heartbeat of Ripple. It is the foundation of how we think about liquidity management, and a core problem that how the financial infrastructure works is around how liquidity is managed. Today, financial institutions are wired with pools of capital. They're called Nostro and Vostro accounts. And these are accounts that are pre-funded between financial institutions. And that's capital sitting dormant and not being used for either working capital or lending or what have you. By using a digital asset, you can enable liquidity in real time. This is transformational to how global financial infrastructure is wired. Every marathon starts with a single step. For us, the first step is getting financial institutions engaged and working with us, getting them to understand how the core technology with Xcurrent works, introducing how we can help manage liquidity. There's a lot of friction and cost associated with banks and financial institutions working with other institutions. We can change and accelerate how that works really materially, dramatically, and I think introducing XRP into those flows will take time, but as I said, every marathon starts with a single step. When I zoom out and look at where Ripple sits in the blockchain and crypto ecosystem, we are incredibly fortunate to be the only company with real customers solving real problems. That is at the early stages of that marathon, but there's no doubt that as we look at the race that has started, we're the only ones that have crossed that starting line.
I have to start with this week has been a notable week for XRP.
For sure.
Roger asked us, what do you attribute the huge jump in price for XRP and all the market cap jump over the last 3 days when the XRP price had been hanging between 20 and 25 cents for quite a while?
It's a great question. Look, I think it's always hard to pinpoint exactly what sparks any market rally in XRP as well as other digital assets. I think for me, Ripple has remained focused on how do we make the XRP ecosystem as successful as possible. Certainly driving more real utility. One of the things I have been fond of saying is at the end of the day, digital assets and the value of digital assets will be driven by the utility that they create. The more customers we drive using them, the more production dynamics we see, the better. I think it's also clear that one of the things that happened is, we have done, I think, a better job of really articulating and comparing the performance of XRP from a technical point of view as compared to other digital assets. So earlier this week, we did frankly, kind of a simple chart summarizing some of the stuff we've been saying for a while, which showed, how XRP performed compared to a number of other digital assets on both price per transaction, throughput. XRP can do 1,500 transactions per second, as well as the transaction time, the speed to confirm a transaction. And on all of those metrics, XRP performs incredibly well. And so when you look at that and you apply it to a really big market around global payments, you're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar market. We have real customers solving a real problem. And I think increasingly we've done, frankly, a better job of helping the markets understand those dynamics, particularly in light of some of the challenges of other digital assets scaling to solve some of these big problems.
Yeah, that's right. This is a good one. I'm paraphrasing here, but you guys at Ripple must be rich now, so why do you still come to work?
When I think about this, when I get up in the morning, I have no trouble getting excited about coming to work. I think what is going on for Ripple, what's going on in the digital asset marketplace, we are just getting started. We're in the early innings. I was fortunate to move out to Silicon Valley in 1997 in the earliest days of the internet of information. And I look at what Ripple's vision is around enabling an internet of value, and I feel I'm incredibly excited by the progress we made in 2017. But I also, and we even had an all hands earlier today, talking about it's the earliest innings. And the progress we've made in cross-border payments is, one piece of that internet of value puzzle. And I look at the years ahead and I can see, many, many years of growth in the core of what we're doing, as well as other vertical opportunities. So I love the journey we're on. I love the community that's on the journey with us. And I think it's a ton of fun. And the last thing I'll say, and not just because you're sitting here, but we have an amazing team here. And it's really fun to work with a bunch of great people.
So the concern with centralization is whether there's one party that gets to determine what the rules are, that calls the shots, that can stop the system, that controls it, that can change the systems in ways that harm its users. The software is all open. Anyone can run a server, anyone can run a validator, and they do. Exchanges are stakeholders, people who hold XRP and run a server to process their own transactions. They're all stakeholders in the system. And if Ripple were to disappear, nothing would prevent them from continuing to operate the system exactly the way it operates today. A lot of people are concerned that Ripple might be able to create more XRP, but the protocol doesn't have any way to say, hey, I got a whole bunch of XRP, just don't ask me where it came from. The transaction rules are deterministic, the software is open source, there is no way to create XRP. Ripple currently holds about 60 billion XRP, that's 60% of all the XRP that will ever exist. 55 billion XRP have been locked in escrow to release over 55 months, $1 billion a month, and Ripple's done that to provide some level of supply predictability to ensure that we'll be holding our XRP over a period of time. Any XRP that we don't use in a month, just because 1 billion XRP releases every month doesn't mean that we'll use it. What we don't use at the end of each month will be returned to an escrow, adding a new month. And because those escrows are public on the ledger, that will also provide an additional level of transparency as people see how much XRP is returned to escrow each month. So as I've said publicly, one of my top priorities for 2018 is improving the decentralization of the XRP ledger. Through 2018, we'll be adding additional validators, and you'll look to see landmarks where the network will be increasingly independent of Ripple's operations.
So when we talk about the benefits of XRP, I would highlight the speed. So XRP is over 1,000 times faster than Bitcoin in terms of the confirmation time. It is actually deterministic, the confirmation time. So whereas with XRP, all the ledgers close about every 3 seconds, 3.2 seconds. With Bitcoin, it's 10 minutes, but it's random. So it's like sometimes it'll be much faster, sometimes it'll be a lot slower. And what that means, if you're using it for payments, is you're actually exposed to a much greater range of volatility with something like Bitcoin than you would be with something like XRP. Another benefit for XRP is the cost. So every XRP transaction costs on the order of 1/10 of a cent, whereas like with something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, the cost would be much higher. So it could be on the order of dollars or even tens of dollars in the case of Bitcoin. So if you take all the different advantages for XRP taken together, higher quality hosting, higher quality validators, higher quality transaction processing, a lot faster, a lot cheaper, when you take all that together, what you end up with is the only digital asset that's actually ready for enterprise use.
Milestones that happened over the course of the year.
2018 was the year where RippleNet really came to life. So we built the network up to connect to 40 countries around the world. We went live with some of the largest banks and most creative payment companies, and we really started to bring the whole payment vision of Ripple to life, and that's a really, really big deal. We also defined the RippleNet community, which is a book of rules that our banks and payment companies work to when they're using Ripple. They can work together, discover new partners and new counterparties, and the network then starts to really build on its own. When you do that kind of thing, that's where you get tipping point, and that's where the flywheel starts to really turn. And we're seeing a great shift in how our customers are behaving in 2018 that tells me that flywheel's really started to kick in.
So Ripple doesn't directly serve a remitter or a small to medium enterprise, but our customers do. So what kind of things have they been able to do with RippleNet for those end users?
We work with their customers to make sure that they are really embedding the value out of Ripple when they're creating their app. So a good example is OnePayFX, which Santander developed with Ripple. And OnePayFX is being rolled out by Santander really worldwide. And Ripple is driving that solution. It's what's helping Santander's retail customers get a really excellent payment experience when they are paying friends and family around the world.
Are other customers following Santander's lead in creating these applications and services for their direct customers?
What we are now doing with our customers worldwide is using that know-how and that learning to help them very quickly develop winning propositions for their own apps and their own internet banking services for their own customers. So for example, CIMB went live very recently with Ripple embedded in their SpeedSend product. Transfigure in the UK has implemented Ripple within their payment app. And what that's doing, it's creating a true global network of blockchain-powered payment capability. And that's starting to bring the internet of value to life.
Boom, boom, XR.
If you've sent a wire today, you know how painful of an experience it is. Basically send a wire instruction into a black box. You don't know what happens to it for days. If it fails, you probably get a call back sometime in the next week or so. That kind of experience will not fly in 2018 when people are sending payments globally around the world. So when we were looking to rebuild the financial system and the payment infrastructure, the first thing that we needed to solve was how do we bring together financial institutions? Instead of trying to destroy them or disrupt them, how do we bring them together so that they can better communicate and send payments back and forth across the globe? That product is known as xCurrent. It's been in the market for 2 years now. It's got enterprise adoption, over $1 billion has been sent over xCurrent in the last year. There's been a tremendous amount of excitement and demand for that product, and it's definitely the most mature product out there in the market that's using blockchain technology to solve a global payment problem. But we're not going to stop there. At the end of the summer, exciting news, we launched 2 new products, xRapid for liquidity, using digital assets, XRP in this case, to move money more effectively, and XVIA, which I'll talk about in a second, both introduced at the end of the summer. XRapid, after we introduced XRapid, we immediately had a lot of demand to use that product to move money more effectively. Today, if you wanted to move money, you have to open up a bank account in the destination where you want to move money and hold local currency. Today, financial institutions, corporations have trillions of dollars trapped just to process cross-border payments globally. That's unacceptable. Using XRapid, corporations and financial institutions can use a digital asset to move money into a local country instead of having that local bank account or local currency. I think that's a game changer. Excited for all the customers that we've already announced and that we'll continue to announce into 2018. While some customers want to process payments, we have a lot of customers and a growing demand of customers that actually just want to use Ripple to send money on behalf of their customers. So what we did is we bundled up the entire Ripple experience into one API for you to move money globally, and that product is known as XVIA. We introduced XVIA in beta at the end of the summer. We're going to be bringing that product into market in the upcoming months. But we're already excited to have customers starting to use that product and provide us with really good feedback. And I'm encouraged about the pipeline of customers that we'll bring to market in the upcoming months.
What is on-demand liquidity?
On-demand liquidity is a way for our customers to send fast, low-cost payments without having to pre-fund the destination account. Today's correspondent banking network is so slow that in order to deliver a fast experience, you have to pre-fund accounts in the destinations in which you're sending money to. You're storing capital like cash really in those accounts for days at a time, and that's highly inefficient. It's a poor use of money. And so on-demand liquidity puts XRP in the middle of that payment from one country to another country to allow for the ability to send payments instantaneously or near instantaneously without having to have funds already available in the destination account.
So where is on-demand liquidity available?
So the receive countries that we have available right now are in Mexico, Philippines. Why Philippines or Mexico is because those are very large receive side countries when it comes to remittances. $31 billion every year going into Mexico, $33 billion every year going into the Philippines. So we believe that there's a large amount of demand there. And also the types of payments that people are making into these countries like Mexico and Philippines from the US and Europe and parts of Asia are really to cover necessities, food, rent, school fees for their children. And so this is a really high impact cross-border flow and the first of many corridors that we will open up this year.
Why are customers interested in using on-demand liquidity?
I think there's really two main reasons, speed and low cost, and we've talked about both of those. But speed element is because XRP settles every 3 to 5 seconds. The ability to do cross-border settlement instead of 2 or 3 days in 2 or 3 minutes end to end is a huge value proposition for not just our customers, but for their customers actually sending money who want that speed and expect that speed. The second thing is low cost. So the ability to not have to pre-fund all these accounts around the world means you can use that capital, which you would otherwise have had in various bank accounts, to put to good use, marketing your product, lowering the cost of your product to the end user. It's about growing your business as a result of having essentially more access to capital rather than keeping it trapped in bank accounts.
Some of you guys may know that we have a great customer out of the UK called Mercury FX, a really innovative payment provider. And what was interesting is that, how they send money today using the antiquated wire system. This is called an FTP server. They actually drop files into an FTP server. It takes 3 to 5 days to process and finally gets over to the destination. Capital, that's why you have that lock, is locked up there because they actually need to have the pesos in Mexico before the payment is triggered. This takes months to set up. It takes days to send. It's cumbersome. It's not innovative, it's antiquated. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how our products, XVIA, XRapid, and XCurrent work together to improve the payment experience. XVIA allows you to use a one standard connection to get you all the benefits of RippleNet and our products. So, the base case is, without XRapid, they would use XCurrent and they would get rid of the need for the FTP server and the 3-day wait to process the files. They would use a modern API and a connectivity into the destination. They still have to have capital trap in Mexico via pesos and a Nostro account, but they get some of the benefits of faster processing and modern APIs. The magic is where XRapid is available, Mexico for example, they can then add on XRapid and move money on demand using XRP into Mexico and pay out instantly. US dollars through one of our partners, for example, Bittrex, is deposited and converted into XRP. XRP is then moved into Mexico via Bitso, another XRapid partner, converted into Mexican pesos, and then paid out via one of our Xcurrent payout partners located in Mexico. They get all this with one standard connection. They get reach wherever Xcurrent is available in Mexico, whether that be a bank, a cash payout provider, or in the future, an innovative mobile wallet. So that, in a nutshell, is how these three products work together to make an antiquated experience a revolutionary one and a great experience for Mercury FX and their customers.
Objective, what are you guys trying to do?
The first use case that we focused on from the Ripple perspective is on cross-border payments. At the same time, we think there's lots of other use cases for XRP and XRP Ledger, and so Spring is really an initiative to focus on new use cases for XRP and XRP Ledger outside of cross-border payments.
What kind of companies are you guys looking at? What's the future look like?
So for Spring, we're focused on a couple of different things. XRP payments is an important one. I think the other area that we're spending some time digging into is looking at the tokenization of real-world assets. The idea there, generally being, there are a lot of assets that people purchase and own that are actually quite illiquid. They're quite hard to transfer. And by tokenizing these things, you can actually make them much more liquid and much easier to transfer around. And an asset that's easier to transfer and has more liquidity is better than one that isn't. And so you can imagine that over time, kind of all of the assets that we own actually end up being tokenized in many ways. And we're even seeing similar sort of things inside of really consumer-oriented things like gaming, where a lot of people spend a lot of money buying virtual goods inside of games that they love, but those goods are actually locked up in that game, and it's really hard to actually transfer a good that you own inside of a game. And so by tokenizing these virtual goods and building a platform where they can be exchanged inside of a marketplace, you can actually remove that level of trust that's needed and really ease the transfer. And it starts to shift things like games from being based around kind of free-to-play and selling virtual goods to almost like a marketplace-driven or a market-driven economy.
We've recently seen Omni, for example, they're using XRP as a payout method for folks that lend their stuff. As they're a company that's being supported by Spring, what makes them successful in that specific use case?
Omni's an interesting use case where they have an interesting platform where you can basically put real-world goods into their storage service, and you can loan them out or rent them out so that other people can use them and you can get paid. And so they've enabled a way for users to get paid through XRP. You can look around your room and see, here's a surfboard that I'm not using. You can put it on Omni, and now all of a sudden your surfboard is actually turning in and earning you XRP. In some ways, it's kind of like mining, right? It's like instead of taking that old gaming PC and like burning up a bunch of electricity to make some sort of crypto somewhere, you can take your lawnmower or something, like give it off to Omni, and all of a sudden it'll start earning you XRP.
장기 투자로 코인을 보관하려 하는데 거래소는 불안하고 해외에서 가장 많이 사용하는 나노일자를 구매하려고 하니 고객 문의 시 영어 때문에 고민이고, 그러신 분들을 위해 준비했습니다. 보안 경력 17년 이상의 소프트웨어 전문가들로 구성되고 수많은 파트너십을 맺고 글로벌 인증도 획득한 국내 아이오 트러스트 회사에서 만든 가장 안전한 암호화 폐지가 지문형 디센트 하드월렛. 한글도 지원되어 사용하기 편리하고 디센트 하드월렛 홈페이지에서 친절하게 한글로 사용 설명까지, 그리고 고객 문의도 한국어로 할 수 있어 아주 편리한 지문형 디센트 하드월렛. 인플루언서 리플마니아의 추천으로 구매하시면 한 개는 40% 할인 109,000원에, 두 개 묶음은 45% 할인 20만원에 구매하실 수 있습니다. 리플마니아 추천으로 구매 시 리플마니아에게 약간의 인센티브가 주어지며 후원을 해주시게 되는 겁니다. 진심으로 감사드립니다. 디센트 하드월렛은 미국 전역 아마존에서도 구매하실 수 있습니다.